Hi, it's Rob Powers here. I'm just going to show a quick tip about doing some fracturing and then using it with bullet dynamics to shatter a pane of glass, and also use it with our new product ChronoSculpt to actually control the speed of the baked out MDD dynamic simulation. So let's just get started really quickly. I have a plane here that's going to represent the glass. Obviously, you always want to, select your, when you go to polygon mode, select your polygons and name them properly so that you don't have any kind of, confusion. Also, let's just go ahead and put like a little slight, our new color picker here. Let's put a little slight kind of tint to it so that we have something looking a little nice. You could obviously also increase the specularity, and you could dial up the glossiness to get it really shiny kind of thing if you wanted to. None of that is really super necessary. And I'm just going to quickly save the object glass panel 1, and what you will notice if you fracture, if you go in to the fracture tool, you've got this large surface here, this face polygon, and the fracture tool is going to have a hard time. I'm just going to, this doesn't really matter at the bottom, but you're going to see that it's going to have a hard time sort of fracturing this. And you notice it's going to have a lot of like really weird kind of triangles. You're also going to see, I did have the essentially a morph target is applied called exploded, which kind of gives you an idea of the explosion. But you can see how messy and dirty, it was trying to figure this out. This could possibly still work, because if we go to smooth shade, you could see that it's not going to look terribly horrible there, but you just have got a real mess of polygons there, because it had to divide up and break that entire surface polygon. So you'll also notice that you're going to have some stray points, which 0 polygons, you got 426. That's a lot of stray points. So let's just go back, and I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the base object. I'm gonna put that in the background actually, and I'm going to go ahead and drag out and create another plane for this. I'm going to make it roughly the same size. I'm just going to go to the numeric panel, and you can, if you arrow up, or if you're in the interface, if you arrow up, you can divide the polygon up, which is going to help quite a bit. You don't have to go too crazy, but it's nice to get some divisions in there, kind of make it fairly uniform. So about like that would be good. And then I'm going to make that object. Now what you're going to notice initially is, if we then go and go back to our multiply tab and we fracture with this new subdivided plane, we're going to already have likely better results, as you see there. So it's a more even kind of situation. You're also going to notice, if we go back to the point mode, you're going to have a lot less stray points. You see there's only 5 now. So you just delete those, and it cleans up your object. You resave it. This is going to be, just using the typical settings without any kind of control items in the background layer. This is kind of what you would get. But let's go back and do this again and just show you how you could, I'm going to put my plane in the background layer, how you could control, like if you wanted to have a fist hit or something hit in a particular place on the glass, you just can very easily drag out where you would like that to happen. We'll do it with one sphere first. The surface of the sphere doesn't really matter, because it's being used as a background control for where this is going to, the shatter is going to occur. So we're going to go back into the fracture, and we're going to choose background layer polygons. So once we do this again, you're going to see that it's going to control the fracture, so that, see how it added a larger pieces away from where that sphere was. Again, you're going to have a fewer number of shattered points, and again, also notice that it's creating, because of my settings in fracture to preserve original, it's saving the original object, so I can always go back to that and retry it again, but it's putting these versions of it on different layers. So I'm going to go back again and just go to my sphere layer, and just to kind of make it look a lot more interesting, I would say, I'm going to want to I'm going to go ahead and select that sphere, and I'm going to Control C, Control V it. Then I'm going to just move it, somewhere, and hit the H key to rescale it, size it in kind of an interesting way. Then I'm going to Control C, Control V again, and I'm going to move it around just to create kind of variation on where this punch is going to happen. And so I got these 3 polygons on the background layer. I'm going to go ahead and try this fracture again with this more interesting layout of background polygons with these spheres. So again, you can change your random seed. That'll just change the look of, for different variations. I'm keeping the preserve original on. If you click part to layers, that's going to copy all those separate parts to different layers. You don't want to do that, I don't think, usually. Explode parts is what allows it to apply that morph target, which is an idea that I had when we first implemented this, based on getting to quickly preview what the shatter may look like when you perform dynamics on it. But you could also use that morph target to do some cool things in layout as well. And it's very useful, actually. You can control the explode distance of how far those pieces blow apart. You can control the explode randomness. You can set that a certain amount. Your interior surfaces, these are the polygons that are created inside the glass shards that don't exist now, like the edges of the glass that have to be created when it's broken. So that will be the surface name for those. Cell count is another thing. When you're choosing the Voronoi algorithm, you can change that to alter your settings there. And so we're just going to go ahead and try this one more time, and you see how interesting it's already gotten as a shattered piece of glass, but you've been able to specifically control exactly where that happens. Again, if we go to the point mode, and you see we've got 14 stray points, no big whoop, you just control delete those. And I'm just going to go ahead and I want to get rid of all these other items because I don't really need them anymore. And we're just gonna I'm gonna put this in my first layer. You could, if you're doing this for real, you would save that version before you delete all those pieces and parts in case you want to come back and do it again. You just save that object out with your little spheres, and you'd be able to come back and make choices. So I'm going to go back in and rename, create another object called Glass Panel 2, save this out, and then we can go into Layout to actually do the bullet dynamic simulation on this. Okay, now I've loaded this object into Layout, and I'm using a null to be the actual collision object on this. You see how it's very nicely sitting there until it's being acted upon. There's the side view, which you could see would work very nicely in slow motion, but you can control how far these pieces are flying by the actual animation of the sphere, which is a collision object, which is really just a null. All these settings are controlled within Bullet Dynamics, and let me just open up the Bullet Dynamics window to kind of talk about some of the things quickly. This is not a full bullet tutorial here, but I'll just talk about a few things. So the glass panel, to get the really cool kind of different colored look and to have the representation of the null being a sphere, you have to turn on Draw Collision Shapes. So that's what's going to give you this pretty cool representation. Obviously, the default of minus 9.8 meters is really good for Earth gravity. That's going to work well for you usually. The parts is the type that you want to select for the glass pane because it is one object, but the fracture process created separate parts which are not connected technically. Their polygons and their points are not connected. So Bullet Dynamics and LightWave are going to see that one object as multiple pieces, which is very cool and very efficient and very different from the way other applications work, because this is a more efficient way to kind of package up all these separate pieces of glass, which I really like and have used a lot. You want to choose Start Sleeping, or else as soon as you start moving through your timeline, the glass pieces are going to fall right away. When you start sleeping, it's going to stay there until it's acted upon. Again, if you had a window frame or something else around it, those pieces, those things would not fall they would stay in place, and you could also have those be something that the glass would collide with and detect as it falls out, which would add an added level of detail. Some other things, you're going to want to play with your linear dampening and all of those kinds of settings, your glue strength. These are going to be things that will change the look slightly. Here's the kinetic object. This is just a null again. You see its motion path in the scene that's moving through, and its representation. It starts active. It is a kinematic object, and when you look at its shape, I've chosen sphere. You can control the size of that by just controlling these settings here, and you're seeing them size up in the window. So if we as I did that, it's now affecting the glass. So I'm going to go back to what our settings were, and we're going to just record this simulation in a nice way, and I'll save it as an MDD. I'll show you that process as well. So all you have to do for that is basically we're going to select the glass panel object, that one object. It's very cool in LightWave, very efficient. We're going to go to the deformations panel. We are going to be cleaning up this workflow. It's something that I want to kind of finesse as well. I think it's fairly simple once you understand it, but we can make it a little more streamlined, I think. And we're going to be doing that soon. So here is the MDD file name. Now, you want to have in your folder structure, here's my glass shatter project, a vert cache folder. And you want to point to that when you try to record your MDD. It's going to name it automatically. We've improved that a little bit. It's going to automatically name it your glass panel object, the same name. You see that in the window here. It's got your frames in here. It looks fine. We've selected MDD. I'm just going to select the thing. It's going to go through the whole process, and it should be completed. I'm just going to do it one more time, and then we will load this into ChronoSculpt, and I'm going to show you how we would complete this shot. Okay, the really cool thing about ChronoSculpt is that you can just go to your content folder. I'm just navigating to my glass shatter project, and I'm going to drag my object right into the interface, and it pops in. And then I'm going to go to my MDD file in my vert cache folder and just drop that onto the object, and it automatically applies in. Here's the timeline. The clip has been added to the scene. I can move it back and forward. You're going to notice that we can easily rotate around. The shortcut keys, Control Alt is zooming in. When you just hold the Alt key, you're going to rotate around, and if you want to position, it's going to be Shift Alt. It's very, very simple, very fast, very easy. The shading is set to smooth shading by default, but I would just quickly change that to flat shaded for this type of an item so that it looks decent to look at. So you can go in your timeline, you can slide the clip to start wherever you want. So if you just want it to be just starting right when the shatter happens, you can move that to frame 1. But you'll notice as you rotate around, here is your dynamic simulation. Now, if we want to change the length of this, we can go to our end frame in ChronoSculpt. Just to have more time, we will just set this to 400 so you can see what I'm talking about. And we will quickly be able to drag out the length of this simulation and slow it down to play as fast or slow as we would like. So just grab that end frame, slide that out, and you're gonna be slowing down. As you slide the clip, you're gonna slow down that playback into slow motion. There you have a slow motion glass shatter. You then resave your MDD file. We're gonna go back to the content folder, and so I'm back in LightWave, and I've just disabled the dynamics so that dynamic simulation of bullet is not affecting the object. Select the object down here, the glass pane, go to the properties, select MD Reader. We're going to go find our file very quickly, and we're going to select the slow file, continue, and what we should see, I'm going to also change my frames to, I'm just going to go to 500, just show you the full length, and I'll pull back, reposition a little bit so it'll be easier to see this, and as we scroll through, it's now happening in much slower motion. So you have a slow motion glass break, and there you have it. It's that simple, very easy with LightWave, the fracture tool. There's some tips for fracture in this, and also ChronoSculpt. Another thing that I would like to point out is that ChronoSculpt is a much more flexible tool to use for this type of retiming, so that you could speed up and slow down almost like a bullet time effect for these dynamic simulations. So it's much more flexible.